5, 4, 3, 2, we're live.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is a public meeting of the Indiana Arts Commission Advisory Review Panel convened to review FY24-25 Arts Organization Support Grant Program applications for Regions 9 and 10. I am Maya Michelson, Executive Director of the Indiana Arts Commission, and I'm serving as today's review panel moderator. Today is April 28th, 2023, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Central Time, and we're meeting online and streaming live for applicants and the public to observe. Just as a quick reminder, there's to be no contact between the panel and the audience about the disposition of applications before, during, or after the panel meeting. This meeting is being recorded and will be made available upon request. Right now, I'm going to individually invite each of the panelists and then our regional arts partners and IAC staff to introduce themselves. Panelists will state their name, occupation, and where they're from. Regional partners will state their name and which region they represent, and staff will state their title and role. So first, we'll start with the panel. I'll introduce each of you by first name so you can share a bit about yourself, including where you're Zooming from today. We'll start with Erin.
Good afternoon. My name is Erin Banks, and I'm the Director of Tourism in Jackson County, Indiana, and my office home's in Seymour, Indiana. I hope everyone has a nice afternoon, and I'm looking forward to doing this.
Great. Thank you, Erin. Next is Katrina.
Hi, I'm Katrina Kuntz. I'm currently a grant specialist with Azel Grant Services. I spent the last 7 years working as a grant professional for Indianapolis arts organizations, and I am Zooming from Indianapolis.
All right, thank you, Katrina. Next is Erica.
Hi, my name is Erica Navarrete Anderson. I'm here in Evansville, Indiana. I work at the University of Southern Indiana as an art instructor in 2D design and painting and drawing, and at the University of Evansville.
All right, thank you. Welcome, Erica. And last is Graham.
Good afternoon. My name is Graham Cullen. I'm a professional musician holding the principal cello chair with the Evansville Philharmonic, as well as on faculty at University of Evansville.
Great. Welcome, Graham. And our regional partners, Anne.
Hi, I'm Ann McKim. I'm the Executive Director of the Arts Council of Southwestern Indiana down here in Evansville, and I am the Regional Arts Partner for Region 10.
Welcome, Anne. And Kim.
Thanks, Maya. I am Kim Wadholm, and I am streaming from Columbus, Indiana, where I am the Operations Director at the Columbus Area Arts Council and also the Region 9 Arts Partner. Thank
you, both of our regional partners, for everything you do to support this process. Now, IAC staff, we'll start with Eric.
Hi, everyone. Eric Ashby, the Grants and Research Manager for the Indiana Arts Commission, running all things tech and IT today.
Thanks, Eric. And last, Paige.
Yeah, I'm Paige Sharp, Deputy Director of Programs for the Indiana Arts Commission, and I am here today to discuss the process and address any policies concerns that may arise.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone. So now we'll start the panel review. And for those of you watching on YouTube, this is how the process will work. The panel will discuss each application, and the assigned reader will provide a summary of their review before discussion moves to the full panel. Once the panel has completed their discussion of the application, they'll have the opportunity to update their scores. As the panel moderator, I encourage panelists to be conversational in their discussion. Feel free to ask questions of each other and chime in when they have thoughts to add. While we want to be mindful of time and focus on the highlights, I'm also here to ensure the discussion includes each of the 4 evaluation criteria, which are organizational excellence, artistic quality, inclusion, diversity, equity, and access, or IDEA, and community engagement. If one of our panelists has a conflict of interest with an application, they'll be placed into the waiting room until we're ready for the next application. And we do have a conflict of interest for this panel, and I will talk through that process again when we get to that point. Any questions from our panelists before we start? Okay, hearing none, let's begin. On screen is a list of applications that'll be reviewed, and they're in largely alphabetical order. So our first application today is the Children's Theater of Southern Indiana. And Erica, you are the reader for that. So whenever you're ready.
Okay. I thought they did a very good job laying out their initial narrative on organizational excellence. They seem to match their mission very well. Very education forward, very inclusive and open, and they do musical and play productions with a very open, case by case scenario. This in section B, it could be a little bit more direct about the inner workings of the organization, but the importance still comes through the organization. It seems to paint a very clear picture as where it's been, where it wants to grow moving forward. And I appreciate some of those details. They have a teen youth council. There's lots of little details there that give us a nice clear picture of the theater. As far as IDEA, they definitely match their mission statement with IDEA, very strong narrative about their journey, give specific examples about how they show self-reflection, in my opinion, how they self-reflect and continue on with those things, especially when COVID hit. They kind of detailed out like some of the things that they identified with outreach and self-reflected and are improving upon those things that they have learned. One suggestion would be adding a little more info as to how data is collected in regards to demographics, but they did have data for the scholarships and gave us some percentages there. So that was helpful to see how much they give in terms of scholarships so far in their organization. Artistic excellence, again, a strong, very clear response with very specific examples of improvement and goals with what they already have in progress. I know that they have goals they're already paying instructors and production people that help with the organization, and they have clear goals to further that. In terms of like how they want to grow how many offerings they have in terms of classes, musicals, and plays. Community engagement, they lay that out very pretty clearly. They could be a little more, there could be a little more clarity in terms of their partnerships, specifically with some of the other organizations, just a little more info. There was just one little thing that I needed clarity on in terms of Evansville Theater Community. Was that an organization or just a general kind of blanket statement of the people they talk to in the community? But it is clear that they are in constant contact with students, volunteers, the board, the staff, and the instructors. I feel like there's a lot of outreach within the community, and they also have goals to continue outreach into the underserved community going forward.
Okay. Thank you, Erica. I'd like to open it up to the full panel. Do we have additional comments or observations from panel members on this application?
I do want to echo what Erica said in terms of the community engagement. I thought it was an exemplary response in the sense that the organization provided various examples of the touch points with their constituents, with the students, the families, the staff, volunteers. And by touch points, I mean the evaluation tools that they use, be they surveys, polls, and face-to-face conversations.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Katrina. Additional comments?
I don't have a lot of additional comment, but I thought Erica did a good job with that. It was very thorough. So I appreciate that because your thoughts were very similar to mine.
Right. Thank you. Thanks, Aaron.
Yes, I also agree. I thought it was thorough, and I have nothing else to add to that.
Fantastic. Okay. Thank you. If there are no other comments, I would ask the panelists to take a few moments to finalize their scores in the online system for this application. And then we'll move on to the next. I'll sort of be scanning eyes, and when I feel like that you've all updated scores, we'll move on to the next. But if you still need a little extra time, just let me know. All right. Looks like everyone has updated scores. So we will move on to our next application. which is Dancer Studio Inc. of Columbus. And Katrina, you are the reader for that application whenever you're ready.
Sure. DS fulfills its mission by providing classes, educational workshops, and public performances to a wide variety of students. I appreciate how DS offers educational workshops in topics other than dance. So I'm thinking here of their description of anatomy, conditioning, well-being classes, which I think is central to the maintenance of of a dancer's body, mindset, and practice. In terms of organizational excellence, the organization also does an excellent job of describing its board and staff structure. I think it was clearly laid out. Lastly, in terms of that section, I applaud how DS has achieved its largest student enrollment ever. The next section, idea. Again, DS considers diversity in all of its forms and it strives for inclusion in terms of the classes that it offers. Those include classical as well as cultural dance classes. DS named specific partnerships, which I appreciate. Those would include partners, Indiana Association of Columbus, I got that wrong, Indiana Association of Columbus, and the ARC of Bartholomew County. Just scanning my comments here, excuse me.
Your time.
For the artistic quality, the applicant's rosters of instructors is clearly well-rounded. It's highly expert. I appreciate that the applicant also recognizes the importance of professional developments for its instructors. And that brings me to community engagement. DS provides numerous channels for its students and their families to engage with leadership, seems to act upon that feedback as exemplified by its plans to share information about the financial health of the organization during some upcoming feedback sessions. The only area I'd like to know more about would be in those communities in which DS isn't currently engaging or those that it would like to seek to deepen engagement. I'd like to know how maybe these communities require different outreach and engagement approaches.
Great, thank you, Katrina. Now we'll open it up to the full panel for additional comments on this application.
I would just like to also kind of follow up on how specific they were in their the area of inclusion, diversity, and equity and access, giving very specific references for us to look at, and also talking about like how they have the free show offerings and how they do community outreach there.
Thanks, Erica. Any more comments from the panel?
It looks like collaboration is very healthy, and their ability to serve all of the community and all of the needs of those. So I think sometimes when you look at dance, you think it's more specific to a certain demographic, and they've clearly, with this writing, maybe changed that a bit, and how we maybe perceive that. So it looks like their work is covers a lot of ranges of disability and the need of the community.
Great, thank you, Erin. Graham, did you have a comment?
Yes, I was just, I agree on everything with Katrina. I thought the artistic quality was extremely high, and also with the idea, the explanation. And I also agree that the community engagement would really benefit from just more specifics.
Great, thank you. All right. Any more comments on this application? If not, I would ask the panel to go ahead and finalize your scores for this application. Okay, looks like we're all ready to move on. Our next application is Dearborn Highlands Arts Council, and Graham, you are the reader, so whenever you're ready.
Yes, to get started, organizational excellence. I thought they did a very clear job laying out what the organization does and why it's important to the community. Specifically, they have open galleries and a marketplace during the months of January through October. And then the art fair bazaar during the holiday months, I think, is an excellent way to involve the community, involving the calendar. So I thought that was a great explanation. And then their idea was clear that they've been implementing it in their organization. The first part of the question explained very well with strong details, and I thought that the oh yes, they did not have a very clear explanation of the audience that they're serving. I thought this would be strengthened if they just have more details on exactly the audience, age group, identities, and all that. But other than that, it was a strong response. Artistic quality, I thought it's very clear that they're providing a strong level. The criteria review for artists ensure that the level of art is always of high caliber and will have a great impact on the community. And they do the project evaluations that demonstrate great commitment, and involves many people in the organization to make sure that it always benefits the community and the organization. For community engagement, also I thought they thought this provided strong commitment to community engagement. They get feedback from community members, city officials, and clients, all to help better shape how the organization works, and then also just to help the community.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Graham. Additional comments or observations on this application from the panel?
In terms of organizational excellence, a lot of emphasis was placed upon the executive director, and she certainly has the longevity that's impressive. But I'd like to know more about the involvement of other board members, and also maybe a succession plan for when that executive director steps down.
Okay, thank you,
I would
Katrina.
like to second that comment.
Thanks, Erica.
I agree. I agree.
Okay, thank you, Erin. Any other comments on this application? All right, hearing none, I would ask you to finalize your scores for this. Okay, looks like everyone has finalized their scores. So we have a conflict of interest for our next application, the Batesville Area Arts Council, Erin Banks. So we're going to place Erin in the waiting room, and she's gone just like that. So we will now discuss this particular application. We're going to do it just slightly differently for this application because it was a last-minute conflict announcement. We did not have a chance to assign a reader. So I'm going to kind of lead the discussion, and the panelists will all join in, and we'll ground that discussion, of course, in the criteria. So I'm going to start with organizational excellence and ask the panelists what observations they have about this application around organizational excellence. Any comments or observations on organizational excellence?
The Arts Council plays a vital role in its community, and it's clearly reliant upon the work of volunteers, namely its board of directors. I was appreciative of the description of how it engages Batesville residents throughout the community in places where they feel familiar as well as comfortable.
Great. Thank you, Katrina. Graham, did you have something to add?
I thought this was a very strong response, very well explained how it's organized, and everything is clearly defined in this response. So that's it.
Yeah, thanks, Graham.
I would also go ahead. Or it's okay. Just the one suggestion is just determining the, how do they determine the success of each program offering? Do they have feedback or surveys, for instance? But I also thought it was a very strong response and very clear.
Right. Thanks, everyone. So we'll move on to inclusion, diversity, equity, and access. IDEA. Would love some comments from the panelists about what you observed based on the criteria in this application for inclusion, diversity, equity, and access.
I just made a comment about it's very strong, and it seems like they offer a diverse range of events and they lay that out nicely for us. Maybe they could have a little bit more information about the community they serve, and how, evaluating programming and how they want to further IDEA.
Right. Thank you, Erica. Katrina, were you going to jump in?
I agree. I think the BAAC articulates its vision for IDEA, but it provides let me get the name right here, the Inclusion and Diversity Policy Statement. And I'd like to see specific examples of that policy in action, as well as lessons learned in the organization's IDEA journey.
Great, thank you. Any additional comments on this criteria?
Yes, I agree with what Katrina just said. I thought that their vision statement was spot on, but it was lacking in specific details.
Right, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right, so we'll move on now to artistic quality. Comments around artistic quality.
I thought they included a very good description of how the programs and visiting artists are chosen, for the area schools as well, and that interaction and talking with the teacher communities. I feel like that was very nice and clear, and maybe just suggesting be more specific on the artists workshops that have been selected before and have a couple of direct examples.
Right, thank you.
I thought this response did a great job explaining the different high levels of talent that were coming in. I thought they brought in a lot of quality artists.
Thanks, Graham.
I agree with what Erica had to say about the board level programming committee, how it clearly outlined its vetting process for artists and programs for the upcoming year. But I'm not quite sure how the organization goes about selecting those artists and programs. Is there an application process, or are they working with management companies? Perhaps just a little bit more detail about how those artists and programs are brought to the attention of the board.
Great. Thank you. So we'll move on to community engagement. Panelists' comments on the community engagement criteria in the application.
Clearly, the Arts Council is well connected to its community. It lists numerous partners, including funding partners such as Arts Midwest. I have a note here that I'd like to know a little bit more about the collaboration with Indiana University Center for Rural Engagement and what they have learned in terms of community engagement models, or any efforts to broaden their audiences as a result of that partnership.
That's great. Thank you, Katrina. Any other comments around community engagement?
I thought it was a really strong response as well, and good examples.
Great. All right. Good discussion, folks. Good discussion. Thank you. If there are no other comments, please take a couple of minutes to finalize your scores for this application. Once we're done, finalized, we'll bring Erin back. It looks like everyone's done. So Erin is back. Welcome back, Erin.
Hope everything went well.
It was, we missed you. So our next application is the Evansville Civic Theater, and you are the first reader for that. So if you need a minute or two to pull it up, that's great. Just start when you're ready.
Yes, you thought I'd have that up since I had a couple of minutes, but that's kind of works. Okay, here I am. All right, these are my thoughts on Evansville Civic Theater. I apologize, it didn't come down where it was supposed to. It looks like it's an organization, Civic Theater. It looks like they have, it says that they have 4 to 6 main stage and 2 to 4 other shows otherwise in their underground series. They also serve with the special needs community. They have a very, very impressive, looks like relationship with the Evansville Vanderburg School Corporation. They work with the kids through that. It looks like with their idea piece of it, they have an organization. It's called the well, actually their idea is actually in their mission statement. So I thought that was impressive. That it seems to be enough of a priority for them. It's actually in their vision or in mission statement. And it says the Evansville Civic Theater Diversity and Inclusion Committee. So there's a committee that's dedicated specifically to that. It looks like the artistic quality. It looks like they've made the decision due to a few funding shortages in sets and some other technical things that they're going to cut back a little bit from big shows to smaller shows or to less amount of shows. So they're opting for quality over quantity. With the hope, I'm sure, to be able to pull that back up. I think it's commendable that they did mention to us that there was some struggle with something, an issue with their financial piece of it. And it looks like they're working on that. That's what I've got.
All right, thank you, Erin. So we'll open it up to the full panel for additional comments on this application.
Some of what they included for even just their promotional material, like they provided their website, there was a nice video on there that I felt like really kind of can pull the viewers in, and it had a lot of good information. Was produced nicely, so I thought that was a nice way to engage people. I think more info on how like performances are advertised and ticketing. Are there what fundraising efforts there are. Just be a little more specific about that, and how they plan to reach out to the community beyond EVSC, or they mentioned Bossy, as they're actually going to move into with Bossy for a while, and use their theater, which seems like a positive move in that direction, and involving high school and a different demographic perhaps.
Thank you, Erica. Graham, looked like you had something to say.
Yes, I thought the organizational excellence laid out what they did, and I just think it could be strengthened by explaining, specifically what plays they do, the broad audience, more details. And I was curious about the Underground series. It's more unconventional, but I was wondering how it came to be and what it's bringing to the organization.
Great, thank you. Any other comments on this application? Okay, hearing none. Katrina, did you want to offer something?
I was just going to say that I had the same comments as Graham. So I'd like to know more about that underground studio, or I'm sorry, however the program is defined. And also, I thought the applicant could do slightly better in terms of community engagement in describing the reciprocity between the partnerships and not just naming the partners.
Great, thank you. All right, I would ask the panelists to finalize their scores for this application. Okay, our next application is the Gibson Theatre, and Erica, you are the reader for that one whenever you're ready.
Okay, let me get this up here. In terms of organizational excellence, I feel like I explained their role in the community well. It's a small rural community. This theater seems to be kind of the hub or the heart of the town, and it's like multi-use. So they show first run movies but also open it up for schools to use. So I felt like that narrative was really strong, laying out what they do and what their purpose is in the community. Just, a little more info. They mentioned something about improving the theater, a little more info, just flesh that out a little bit, what their goals are. And I did find that out through what they included in the links, but it'd be nice to have that in the narrative as well. In terms of idea, they did well to explain how offering a wide variety of events, including free options to the community, brings in a diverse range of patrons, including those who are disabled or have developmental delays. They really seem to collaborate with the schools and organizations that way. So they have like everything from live shows to comedy. They explain that well, and I appreciate those details. I would probably just flesh out a little bit more variety of people that do come to the theater. And it seemed like just a little assumptive that we would know who would go to like a 70s rock thing. So just if you can kind of dig a little deeper in terms of the details for us. And artistic quality, they mentioned they do offer a wide variety, and reiterate that. Just a little bit more info on how the theater evaluates what they should offer, like how many times does the board meet to discuss that, and maybe a little information on how many people do come to the shows. Community engagement, I think it seems strong. The general look on how the organization partners with the community and creates opportunities for schools, religious organizations, art, local filmmakers. I think that was strong. I think just a little more information gathering. Are there the meetings to discuss offerings or vote on the board as mentioned for what they offer. What has Gibson Theatre done with feedback and how do they collect that? So there.
Thank you, Erica. Open it up for additional discussion.
I agree with Erica in the sense that I found this application lacking in specifics, and I can identify a few areas. For example, with the organizational excellence, they describe how there was a great loss because of the pandemic, but I'm not quite certain what that great loss means for the organization specifically. Or when it in artistic quality describes the various types of programs, maybe naming those programs or directors, the types of award shows that they've hosted would provide a little bit more for the reader in terms of the breadth and depth of the programming.
That's great. Thank you, Katrina. Other comments?
I agree with Katrina and Erica, just details.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why actually on mine, I'd written down details. It was kind of the same thing. While impressive at point, it would have been a little more, the picture wasn't painted as clearly as I would have liked to have seen it.
That's great. Thank you. All right. I'd ask you to take a few minutes and finalize your scores for this application. Okay, our next application is the Mill Race Theater Company, and Graham, you are the reader, so whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so for the first prom to organizational excellence. I thought they adequately explained the basics of the organization. I have a good understanding of what they do, but I'd like to see in more details how it operates, how they decide on the shows to perform, and what the work behind the scenes is like. Anything they can provide will just strengthen their response. For idea, I said there's a lot of information that the organization is wanting to make a commitment towards idea, but not providing specific examples. Well, they did, the one example they provided I thought was very strong was adding an idea question to artistic director interviews, as well as having an idea committee that operates separately from the board. That was a great example, and if we could see more of that in this response, it would just make it a strong response. For artistic quality, they didn't provide a whole lot on what they're doing to strive for high artistic quality. And with that, they can explain how those in charge were selected, what degree of expertise they can bring to the organization, how the organization is planning to improve upon past productions, and just like what exactly the educational activities provided are for the participants. And for community engagement, I thought the response was clear and straight to the point. Using social media to gather input, interact with the community is always great. Partnering with local neighborhood organizations is a fantastic way to help both organizations benefit. And one specific example they provided is they get to use a free space from a local organization, and in turn they provide scholarships. So that was a strong example, and it shows the core benefit of two organizations working together in a community.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Graham. Any additional comments from the panel?
I think their artistic statement was strong in the area where they talk about their, like, how it collects data for the future experiences, the selection process. They talked about a rigorous selection process where they each director submits a detailed proposal that is then reviewed, and there's exit surveys that go on. So I do feel like that part was strong in terms of how they kind of curate their quality.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Erica.
I agree that I think the beginning with the organizational was a little bit vague, and I was kind of going into it a little bit slow, but it looks like they have a really strong process of survey and evaluation. Looks like they have a strong process of dealing with it, making sure the directors are strong. I think they met the criteria. I'm good with them.
Thanks, Erin.
I'm stuck on myself today.
Any other comments from the panel? Katrina?
And maybe I differ from the rest of the group, but I really enjoyed the organizational excellence response. I wrote that it was a well-written introduction. It named specific partnerships, described the active involvement of its board. The one area I found slightly lacking is that I'd like to know more about timelines for building and hiring permanent staff.
Thank you, Katrina. Any other comments on this one? Okay, hearing none, I will ask the panelists to finalize your scores for this applicant. All right, looks like we are ready to move on. So our next application is Perceptions, Yoga, Mindfulness, and Art, Inc. And Katrina, you are the reader for that one, whenever you're ready.
Sure. Perceptions provides such a wide range of programming, from workshops led by guest artists, community mural projects, plein air events, activities in the makerspace. it clearly indicated to me in this response how the organization is meeting the community needs for such programming. I thought that in meeting these needs, that's mirrored in the organization's financial growth, which it describes receiving grants from several government agencies. As for the idea, the applicant rightly recognizes that this is ongoing and fluid work, and then clearly delineates how inclusion, diversity, equity, and access, what that means for the organization as well as for its community. It seems as if perception is aiming to grow through additional classrooms and gallery space, as well as the development of its artist in residence program. So I have an understanding of how perceptions is seeking to grow not only in the organization and the types of programming that it provides, but also in its idea commitments. The one thing I thought could use improvement in idea would be the support of demographic data. So numbers or percentages that were specific to the applicant's audience. As for artistic quality, that seems mainly to be the responsibility of the executive director. She's credited with seeking out and selecting artists for the exhibition. And again, I'd like to know how other members of the board, maybe staff or volunteers, are involved in this process. And lastly, for community engagement, I think that perceptions for the few years that it has been in operation seems to be well integrated with this community. Its projects have attracted widespread attention, including projects with Jennings County History Mural Project and the Drain Painting Project, which would take more explanation than I have time to give in this particular moment. But I found it really interesting to learn about that Drain Painting Project. I think I would encourage the organization to explore other outreach strategies beyond social media to increase its following. I gave a few examples, such as establishing an advisory committee, convening focus groups, maybe holding listening sessions, or even operating booths at local festivals or special events. Those may be activities in which the organization engages, but it wasn't quite clear from that response.
Thanks, Katrina. Comments from the panel?
I like the details about the organization being very open and inclusive and accessible through the pay as you go kind of method. I found that very interesting, and that they're trying to kind of keep that true to keep that going with their organization. I think that opens a lot of doors. Or pay as what you can.
Yeah. Thanks, Erica. Other comments?
I thought overall this was a very strong response to all the questions. In the category of artistic quality, the lead teacher, she has a great resume, and it shows how they're still always striving for continuous improvement. But when it comes to bringing in outside artists, I thought it was lacking in specifics, examples of their experience and their excellence. And I think that would better explain how they're looking to bring outside artistic quality into their organization.
Great. Thank you, Graham. And Erin.
I again agree with everyone. I love the fact that a couple of the maybe newer ones are like right on top of this. Yeah, I agree with all of your comments, and I was impressed by the pay as you go, or the pay scale that they have, or the way they manage that, because sometimes that is, especially this day and age, that can be a problem. So otherwise, I agree, and I agree with Graham's critique also.
Great, thank you. Any other comments on this application? Okay, hearing none, I'd ask you to finalize your scores. Okay, looks like we're ready to move on. So the next application is Southeastern Indiana Dance. And Aaron, you are the reader for that. So whenever you're ready. You're muted, friend.
Just testing you. Okay, Southern Indiana Dance, Southeastern Indiana Dance. If you, I have a tendency to jump around a little bit. This was a really, the things that stuck out for me on this one were the impressiveness of their board and the impressiveness of their director. It looks like it looks like that's clearly a large strength for them. It looks like their audiences were down from 750 to 600, but it doesn't seem to appear to be a problem for this organization. I'd like to see a little bit more on what their community partners look like. While their board is extremely impressive and what they're doing is very impressive, it wasn't clear on some of their community partners and strength of community partners. I was also impressed and I think the strong note on the instructor process for their courses and what they do to for their instructors. Well, most instructors looks like are volunteer, but it's still a rigorous process for those instructors. Let me make sure I have. Also, it looks like they've doubled the number of children that they're able to reach. And also in that reach, the children they're reaching aren't merely a physical disability, which you would normally associate. There are also other disabilities, and it looks like that they're addressing those and able to manage those within their organization and produce a quality moment or quality for the kids. I think those are all the notes that I had. I'm kind of a few words on this one. I thought overall was an impressive grant.
Other comments from the panel?
I agree. I thought this was this was an impressive response, and I appreciated how clear, forward, and concise these responses were. It really made it just extremely clear and laid out well.
Thanks, Graham. Other comments?
I do agree that these are well-rounded responses, but there were some areas where I felt that additional information or details could be used. For example, they talked about expanding the Exceptional Movers program, doubling that, but there wasn't any baseline to give me a sense of how large that program is now.
I would agree, like as well with like just a few more like details to really like kind of send this application home in the future. You know, like what is their actual venue like, where they perform, or is it in-house, or do they go other places? You know, how they evaluate scholarships. Yeah, just a few more details in each area, but I think the general basic, the bones are there.
Great. Thank you, Erica. All right, good discussion. If I don't hear any more feedback, I'd ask panelists to finalize their scores. Okay, our next application is Stage 2 Productions, and Erica, you are the reader for that one, so whenever you're ready.
Okay, this kind of went out of order on me for some reason. I don't know why. Let me just.
Of course.
just one. Okay, Stage 2, in terms of organizational excellence. They had a very strong narrative in that area, in my opinion. They're very clear about appropriate details and examples. I appreciate specifically each section address like the mission statement and how that's being carried out, diversity, inclusion, collaboration, all of those things were laid out very quickly or clearly. The function of the board is also laid out clearly. One suggestion would be just to include how the board is formed and how large it is, but they were very clear about how many performances they have with the theater program they have. I also was very the details about like the summer workshop, that was, very compelling, very unique, being able to write your own scripts and learn how to write your own scripts. Idea, extremely, I would say exemplary, and how it's implemented and how they laid that out. Seems that they're continuing to evaluate and improve as well. They welcome feedback and have future goals to strengthen idea. I'd like to know a little bit more about, they talk about scholarships, or if you are in need or can't afford a show, they will allow you to still come. And I want to know like how they outreach and people can take advantage of those opportunities. Artistic quality, they very detailed again. I would say this overall, this application had a lot of details, which I think helped paint a very clear picture. Types of shows, strength and professional experience of the board members. It's all volunteer, which I found very interesting. And so that even makes, presents other challenges with like how much time they can spend on each thing. They still seem very organized. I feel like they implement idea or artistic quality. They have like a lot of evaluations. They have a winter retreat to like be able to make decisions on shows, and a very equitable sort of way of everyone helping to decide what they have. Maybe a little bit more on like attendance and just how many people get to come through the doors. Community partnerships, I felt also was very strong, and it was demonstrated very well in the writing. I feel like they have a very like symbiotic relationship. They explain how they partner with each organization to like I forget the place name, I have to look real quick, but being able to work with various community partnerships that actually help train actors and actresses to be very kind of sensitive to what they're trying to communicate with their material. And then they actually get to set up, the organization gets to set up a booth for each way to have the audience be able to communicate with them. So I feel like it's the back and forth partnership with kind of showcasing each other. So in general, I feel the writing was very strong. Maybe a little bit, maybe pare it down just a little bit for clarity, but in general, the details work very well.
Thank you, Erica. Other comments from the panel?
I appreciate how the organization described leveraging resources with the Evansville Civic Theater. I think that's really for the betterment of the arts community as well as the larger community. One area of critique in the organizational excellence, the applicant describes that the community knows they can always come to stage 2 for financial or other assistance. And I just wanted to know how the organization makes this information publicly available. How does it share those resources with the community? Because I thought the way that was phrased put a lot of onus on the community members and not on the organization.
Thank you. Thanks, Katrina. Other comments?
I agree with Katrina on her last comment. I'm the same way. I wonder how that process is, how that happens, how they know that. And I also agree on the summer workshop. I really like the idea of the writing their own scripts, and that they have their it approaches the entire process of it instead of just merely having the shows. Yeah, those are, all of mine are agreed on their notes. So,
right.
Yep.
Thanks, Erin. Any other comments on this one? All right. Hearing none, I'll ask the panel to finalize their scores. All right. Folks, we've got 5 more. You want to power through or you want to take a break?
I'm fine to keep going.
Okay. Everybody else fine? Everybody all right? Okay. All right. We will power through here. Okay. Next application is Columbus Symphony Orchestra, Inc. And Graham, you are the reader on that one. So when you're ready.
All right. I thought their response clearly explains what the organization does, the specific examples they provided, providing music for the community, as well as a place for local musicians to experience playing and performing in a symphony orchestra. I thought that clearly demonstrates, how they're important to the community, and how it operates and provides those services. For IDEA, I thought it was a strong response, with their commitment to IDEA, joining the orchestra. Joining the orchestra is as inclusive as can be, really. Having no auditions, no fees. The fact that if you don't have the ability to afford concert clothes, they have a way to provide those for you. I think that's just really the most inclusive experience you can have with an orchestra. Also, how they host competitions for up-and-coming composers, and these bring out about a diverse range of ages, genders, and races. And it led the orchestra to performing a piece by a Peruvian composer living in Bloomington. And the piece was performed in Spanish with English translation. And I just thought that was a great thing to bring to the community. As for artistic quality, it read basically like resumes, but I was okay with that because it clearly defined the organization and what their members are bringing to the organization. The music director, first off, has a great resume, and he brings a lot. And then the concert master and the assistant concert master have a lot of experience, and having expertise like that in the orchestra will enhance the group and provide that will provide a lot of great experience for the members in the orchestra, as well as providing a great and then therefore just making a better product to provide for the community. And as for community engagement, I thought they show a strong effort to get comments from the community, trying all different mediums to get the feedback. There's also open communication between the musicians in the orchestra and the administrative side to make sure that the musicians are happy and the organization is happy and that they're working as smoothly as they can together.
Thank you, Graham. Other comments from the panelists?
I also found it very clear in the community partnerships and community engagement was very specific. I also kind of responded to the fact that they tried different surveying and trying to gather information and would evaluate if that was working, and then they try something else. So they explained that very well, and really trying to get a community response.
Okay, thank you, Erica.
My notes on this, I noted that the age range of their musicians is interesting. Large age range, which would be interesting seeing that learning process, because in itself would be the learning process, not in just performance. It looks like they did extensive research on music versus health, which I thought was interesting, and that was interesting reading to me, and I actually ended up kind of researching on the side some of that. It looks like their board members are extremely impressive. And I feel the same way. It looks like they're very engaged in how the audience and community feels about their organization and what they do. And it looks like they can swing either way, depending on that information. And they must take that into account, which is admirable.
Thanks, Erin.
Yes, the organization is clearly an advocate for diverse and living composers. that was also described in terms of the musical director's, what Graham called his resume. I'm just interested, as that musical director ends his tenure with the organization, is that advocacy something that they're going to be seeking from candidates?
Yeah. That's great, Katrina. Thank you. Any other comments on this application? All right. Hearing none, please finalize your scores. All right, our next application is Foundry Center for the Arts, and Katrina, you're the reader for that application whenever you're ready.
Yes, the Foundry is an organization. It provides exposure to the arts through after-school, homeschool, and community-based programming. In the organizational excellence, the organization clearly serves a vital role in the lives of the students that it serves, but I'd appreciate learning more about the staff, the volunteers, the board members. How many are there? What is their area? What are their areas of expertise? It was striking to me that the applicant suffered a devastating fire that destroyed its facilities. And this I would perceive as being a history-altering situation. So I was seeking more information about how the Foundry intends to rebuild or to grow from this tragedy. An idea. The Foundry has broad goals to serve audiences of all ages, races, income levels, but there wasn't specific data related to those, numbers, percentages. I'd like to know more about the demographics of the program participants across their after school programming, homeschool programming, and community-based programming. For artistic quality, the Foundry notes that academically educated artists offer different talents than self-taught artists, and I do believe that there's value in those attributes. In terms of artistic quality, I think that they could just be elaborated upon in this response. The applicant is selecting artists and staff based upon their expertise, but maybe naming those specific staff, providing just a few concrete details related to their expertise. And then in the last section, the community engagement section, I found that this response focused solely on the after-school programming with no description of the homeschool or community-based programming. So I'm not quite sure how those community engagement efforts relate to those types of programming.
Thank you, Katrina. Other comments from the panel?
I would agree. I think that the application could benefit from more specific details. I feel like I had questions with each section. Same thing. I kind of wanted a little bit more of the story. So what happens now after the building burned down, or are the students being bused, or how is that going into schools and serving homeschooling and after school programs how is that actually being taken care of? How many people are involved with doing that? Just a little more about statistics, statistics and information that would help paint a clearer picture, because they do seem that there's a need for them, that they have, a lot of skills that they want to offer for children.
Right. Thank you, Erica.
I agree with Erica and Katrina. That I think this application would be just strengthened with more details in the artistic quality section, maybe how the pieces of art are selected, or how they plan on improving, or how the staff, how the staff are chosen. It states how they pick staff of excellence, but maybe some examples of what they've done to get that description.
Great, thank you, Graham.
I also would have liked a lot more details. I agree. Kind of my question is, if you're dealing with the schools, does that the difference in what your programming looks like versus being in your own building? Because sometimes you don't have the same restraints or guidelines as you would have to maybe adhere to in the schools. And how does that change maybe the way your programs or what you're doing is presented or managed? And I agree with all the other comments. I would like to have seen a little bit more meat, I think, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Erin. Good discussion. Any other comments here on this application? All right, I'll ask the panelists to finalize their scores. Okay, our next application is Tree County Players, and Erin, you are the reader whenever you're ready. You're muted, friend.
You would think this is my first time on a Zoom. All right, the Tree County Players. I didn't realize I was next. I thought I still had one more, so I'm a little bit out there. It looks like they've been around for a long time. It looks like they've served their community well. It also looks like they have a big diversity of the type of shows that they have. When you with what they do, they have kind of across the board a lot of different types of shows, which I think would bring out the artistic appeal to many individuals involved, plus individuals that are contributing financially, both financially and physically. So I think that brings in a really diverse group for that. It looks like while they have purchased a new building and they're not in the school any longer, I thought they did a good job of explaining how their financials have remained solid while making that change, and they kind of explained how all that works. I also felt like it was impressive that their ticket prices have not reflected whatever their financial decisions are made, so that they're able to still serve those. I would like to have seen a little bit more collaboration, but it looks like their board members, it notes that they have 9 board members, and it mentions some of the things that they do and what they're involved in, but I would like to have seen a little bit more of what they bring to the table. Let me scroll just a moment. I think those were really the only really significant notes that I had. I apologize. I have something on community engagement and I've lost my note.
Okay.
I am so sorry.
Erin, that's all right. That's all right. We'll open it up to the full panel, and if it comes to you, we'll let you jump back in. So we'll open it to the panel for any additional comments on this application.
I think
Appreciated how.
go ahead.
Just quickly, I appreciated how the organization chose three very specific examples to illustrate idea. I thought that was a very thought-provoking way to respond to that section. I do feel that that response could be bolstered with some demographic data. For example, the applicant describes its primary audience as adults with median income, but doesn't describe what that median income may mean for its community.
Thank you, Katrina. Erica.
I would second that as well. And then I do appreciate their description in their artistic quality section about their selection process to maintain, quality by creating a packet and creating more opportunities for newer, less experienced directors to have mentorship. So there's a lot of details in there that I thought were strong for that category.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Any other comments? All right. Hearing none, I'll ask the panelists to finalize their scores. Okay, our next application is Traditional Arts Today, and Erica, you are the reader for that application.
Okay, so in organizational excellence, I think they demonstrated programming that is in line with their mission statement, especially for a small rural community and the need for the arts. Good details about classes offered, the sales gallery. They want to, continue to grow the offerings for classes, different to create that kind of diverse need. Strong staff and board team, they have done well to receive grant, to look for grants. And I really was impressed by their kids program that is a free program for kids to have arts experiences. IDEA, I think there was, various ways IDEA is implemented. They actually, again, like I mentioned, they actually seek out grants to have more inclusive opportunities that are, take off some of those financial barriers. They're also like working with aging and working with nursing home and collaborating on that end as well. And also identifying how their community is changing. They identified the Hispanic Latino community growing. And so I feel like, they want to do more outreach and inclusion. And since they are a traditional arts base, they want to show that kind of craftsmanship from all sides, I think. Artistic, I felt like was, they do have an evaluation adjudication process for who they allow in the sales gallery, and that seems organized, and they've had trouble in the past, perhaps, as they mentioned, but they are, I feel like they're very active in trying to figure out how to overcome those challenges with finances. And community engagement, they had a lot of details about partnerships, how they can financially help their community by being active, and partnering with, being engaged in community activities like yearly festivals, but also I think it was mentioned, kind of coming back to, they wanted to do the future goals of the partnership were laid out clearly, and they seem to pair well with traditional arts. They seem to be actively looking to further work with senior communities and trying to keep that door open wide, and also improve their buildings for accessibility as well. So I thought it was a strong application.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks, Erica. Other comments from panelists?
It's clear to me throughout this application that the organization is striving for growth for its audiences, also in terms of the diversity of the audiences. I do think that the artistic quality section was missing a description of its artist. So much of it was focused on the former artistic director, and yet there was no real description of the types of artists whose work that they sell.
Thanks, Katrina. Other comments, Graham?
Yes, I 100% agree. It was, I think the artistic quality, they answer how they're getting their artists and their art more accessible to reach a broader audience, but they're lacking detail and the level of quality. And I think if they include the selection process, any accolades, awards that they have won, shows, residencies that they've attended, those are specifics that would strengthen that answer.
Thank you, Graham. Any other comments from panelists? Erin?
Yes, I I went through, I think one of the impressive things it looks like they do is the team building piece of it with companies to come and do team building through the arts. And also their extensive financials and their ability to get and express how they've spent and what they're doing with their financials. And it looks like they're good to seek grants. They must have someone with their organization that's a grant person. It looks like they've made that important, which is positive. And it looks like it's within being in the community. It means it's probably easier for access for people and their ability to get to their And I agree with the artist piece of it. It would have been, I would like to have seen a little bit more in that department too, as far as that goes. So
Thank you, Erin. Any other comments from panelists? All right. Hearing none, I'll ask the panelists to finalize scores for this application. Okay, it looks like we are done. Thank you, Erin. All right, now we'll move on to Veal Creek Players Inc. And Katrina, you are the reader for that application. So when you're ready.
Sure. I'll begin by noting that the applicant's website was down when I attempted to access it and that they did not provide a second social media link. The Veal Creek Players, they present productions throughout the year. They host a youth summer camp. They provide a variety of programs as a volunteer-led and run organization. But it was difficult for me to truly assess the organizational excellence because I don't feel that many of the components of the writing prompt were addressed. So I don't know how many board members, staff members there are, the key committee structures. There were no partners listed. And so I don't have a full understanding of the organization's operations. Similarly, in the idea response, this too was lacking in detail. There's no real demographic data. And by that, I mean, identification of the number and percentages of audience members and their racial and ethnic identities, ages, income levels, cultural differences, disabilities, and or other circumstances. All of these were part of the writing prompt. It would help even to just provide an estimate of the average attendance, be it by production, by program, or throughout the year, whatever time frame that Veal Creek players would like to give structure to that response. The applicant does mention that prices are very affordable, but what does that mean for the organization as well as for its community? It's true in artistic quality that the applicant talent comes in many shapes and sizes, but I want to know specifically what talent or artistic quality means for Veal Creek Players. They mention having a wide volunteer base, but again, the details are lacking, so I don't have an understanding of what that may entail. And then in general, I'm just curious about the expertise and credentials of the teachers and the theater graduates that they mention as being part of their volunteer base. Lastly, for community engagement, again, there's no identification of partners, descriptions of partners. They say that they monitor Facebook for community feedback, but what types of feedback is the organization receiving? How are they acting upon that? I just really think that there could be much more attention to this application and in terms of the writing prompts, but also the specific information that the organization provides.
Thank you, Katrina. I appreciate that. Comments from other panelists on this application?
I agree completely with that. I think I was, wanting a little more like passion for the organization, give us some details. Don't be afraid to be indulgent with some of those details because it helps paint a picture. I think in all categories that can be improved, and it just spend some time really, thinking about and celebrating the organization on paper.
Thank you, Erica. Other comments from the panelists?
Yes, I agree 100%. Just looking for ways that just really anything. I just ideas, details, specifics in all the categories would help strengthen this.
Thanks, Graham.
I agree with everyone. I don't think that I'll use the term again. We need more maybe more meat as far as description and what they do and how they deliver those. The one comment I appreciated was they noted that at no charge, they invite senior citizens to come watch their final dress rehearsal, which is very commendable. They noted that they're funded by their ticket sales. And I'd like to see a little bit more what that funding looks like and those finances look like. But I'm saying with all categories, I felt like I wanted to read more and know more.
Right. Thank you. All right, panelists, I appreciate the comments. Any additional on this application? Otherwise, if you would finalize your scores. All right. I want to thank the panelists for the work that they have done before today and the work they've done today in discussing the applications. And just want to let everyone watching the live stream know that this concludes the FY24 Arts Organization Support Advisory Review Panel. Applicants will be notified of the status of their grant following the June quarterly business meeting of the IAC. If you have any questions about this process, please contact your regional arts partner. Thank you for watching.